right? You got it? Okay. Well, I'm Steve Powell, Vice President of Finance, and we are here to present one of our quarterly meetings that we will be doing, that we are doing. We did one a little bit ago in November, I believe, and we talked about the audit results, and we're here to talk about the first half financial position. So all these numbers will be as of December 31. And you don't have to listen to me drone on, as in past years. We're going to have Monica Sloan, the controller, speak to the finances for December 31. And then Renee, our new executive director, is going to talk about some capital components and other aspects of the village to give you an update. And Ken and I are here as eye candy, just to keep the stuff going. Oh, Adam, I forgot to include Adam in that, who does a lot of the work. And so we're delighted that you're able to be here. I know there are a lot of things you could have chosen instead of this to be doing this afternoon. I understand you have a pretty full calendar for today, but we're glad you're here. And with that, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Monica, and we'll begin.
Okay, thank you so much, Steve, for that introduction. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here again. You guys are stuck with me, as Steve said, but it's always fun to do this, at least for me. It's fun to do numbers. I don't know if it's fun for you guys, but I think it's nice to go over the numbers and see where we are, and I think it's pretty exciting what's been going on. But again, it's an honor for me to be presenting to you today. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Monica Sloan, and I've been here for 17 years. So I've been doing this for a really long time, and glad to do it. And one of the things I always remind myself when I'm looking at the numbers is that really it's the residents that make this a success. So we kind of set the stage and make all sorts of decisions along the way, but really, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be successful. So thanks to you for choosing us and for really having that partnership along the way. So we are going to dive right in, and we're going to go over community occupancy. And like Steve had mentioned, these figures are as of December 31st, so mid-year results. And yep, okay. So as of December 31st, our skilled nursing facility was 85% occupied, and we had a plan of 87. And more recently, as of February, we're 82%. And then our memory care facility, which is a newer facility, and we're continuing to grow that programming, bring new residents in, develop our staff around that programming. We were 78% occupied as of December, and we did plan 95%, as we know there's a high demand for these types of services. But we were 80% occupied as of February, so we're building that census as we build that programming. And then assisted living, we were 97% occupied as of year-to-date December with a plan of 94, and we were 98% occupied in February. And that has been a level of care that we have, been watching it to grow, and we've been doing a lot of building and upgrading and some staffing and programming, and it's working. So we're building that census there. And then independent living, we're 84% occupied compared to a plan of 86. And we moved the needle to about 85% in February. We did build the budget to be fairly conservative in that level, knowing that we were going to be doing improvements across the campus. As we all know, Avondale and Windsor, all that construction work that's happening and concluding. We built that knowing that we were going to be going through that transition. So I'm happy to report that we are 85% occupied and growing. So, and then moving on to our weighted average occupancy. This is a kind of a breakdown of the independent living because we have segments inside our independent living made up of our homes, which are 99% occupied as of December. Our Windsor Avondale was 73% occupied with a plan of 80. And then Wakefield Overlook Homes, 95%, and Wakefield Overlook Apartments, 95%. And, this was as of December, so we were still going through transition and construction and, getting that segment of the population ready. So we'll continue to see that census build in that Windsor Avondale segment. Next is our turnover cash flow. This slide gives you a little idea of just the move-ins that we've had year to date and the entrance fee revenue associated with that. We have 3 units that are scheduled for occupancy. As of December, we had 3 that were coming in, and then we had another 5 that were scheduled to come in through April. So a total of $2.9 million in cash for units that we have scheduled for occupancy. We did have total units vacated year to date December. We had 19 units, and we planned 36 for the full year. And just a little tidbit of information, it takes about 73 days to turn a 10% deposit into a move-in. So it's a lot of work the marketing team has to put in to kind of identify that resident, bring them in, get the 10% deposit, and get all them scheduled and moved in. So it takes a little bit of time. Our entrance fee data for December, we've received 17 units year to date through December for our entrance fee cash. That's $6.2 million in cash. And we planned 50 units for the full year. We paid 16 refunds through December, about $1.5 million in refunds. So as the residents either move out of the continuum, depending on their contract, or move to another level of care, we have to pay a refund. So there's a calculation behind that, and we have to disperse that to that resident. The average entrance fees that we've received is about $364,000. If you break that calculation down from this slide. On the capital side, capital spending, we've spent about $1.4 million in capital improvements across the campus. That's just our annual capital. It does not include the construction that's happening across campus. So that's in the millions of dollars. We did plan 1.8 year to date through December, and overall the total capital plan for Carroll Lutheran Village is $3.7 million. So a lot of, you can see not only the construction, but we are continuing to do refreshes and purchases of equipment and dining and all across campus to continue to keep the campus marketable and viable. We also had some additional capital that we had approved for other community refreshment. 300 Main Lobby, Friendship Way, 1000 Weller Circle Link in the lobby, about $250,000 planned in 2025 for that. And we also had additional dollars carry over from the prior year, so you'll continue to see projects along the way throughout the remainder of the year. Really, it's just a testament to the continued reinvestment that we have in the community, not only on the construction side, but just continuing to refresh the community, making it marketable. Next, we're going to dig into the financial highlights, and this is our balance sheet. We have current assets of $8.1 million, and that's a couple of different items. We have cash. We have accounts receivable of $1.8 million. We also have cash that we hold for payment on our debt. And we have other receivables and some prepaids that make up that $8.1 million. And just so you know, inside of that, the accounts receivable, it takes us 16 days to get all of our receivables collected. So that is a very, it's a figure that we watch in finance very closely, making sure that the services that we are providing, we are collecting that money, and we are doing it quickly, and that benefits the campus. We also have assets whose use is limited. It's a big number, $35 million. The majority of that really is investments. We have almost $27 million in investments, and that is a buildup of accumulation of funds, whether it's donations, but the community invests those funds. And then over time, we can pull some of those funds to utilize in our operations. We also have $5.3 million in a money market inside of that. It's earning a 4.5% rate, and so it's generating revenue for the organization. And then property and buildings and equipment. This number is growing. We have $77 million here. And as we continue to do the construction across campus and invest in the community, you will see that property and equipment grow. So total assets of $120 million through December. The other segment of the balance sheet breaks down our liabilities and our net assets. Our current liabilities are $4.2 million, and the majority of that really is accrued payables, accounts payable. We pay all of our vendors, that kind of lays in that line. Payroll liabilities, as well as our entrance fee liabilities. When you pay an entrance fee to come into the community, we have to record that as a liability because we owe those services to you over time. And so we amortize that into the income statement and as revenue over a period of time. But right now it sits in a liability to you as a service. So that's in that line as well. We also have long-term debt. We have to, in building the community, you build debt sometimes. You have to borrow, whether it's bonds or bank financing. We have debt to run those obligations. And then deferred revenue, again, that is the entrance fee, bringing our net assets to $22 million. And our total liabilities and net assets to $120 million. The next segment is what I call our profit and loss statement, but this particular segment of the slide gives you an idea of what our revenue generation is in the community. Our skilled nursing facility generated $5.8 million year-to-date through December, and you can see the next column to it is our plan. Our memory care was $760,000 compared to a plan of just over $1 million. And keep in mind, we're building census there. So we're building programming, building census in hopes to close that gap in the target that we had. Assisted living, $2.4 million, right on plan. And independent living, $9.3 million compared to a plan of $9.6 million. And as we continue to bring in those other units from Windsor and Avondale and bring those residents into the community, we hope to close that gap with our revenue stream there. And then other income, which could just be, cafe and bistro income, therapy services, outpatient therapy services, $1.5 million compared to a plan of $1.2 million. So total revenue of just about $20 million. The community is generating some cash in terms of operations, and really that's just in reinvestment into the community. Turning to the expense side of the P&L. Our nursing, resident, culinary, and housekeeping expenses, $9.2 million compared to a plan of $9 million. And we are continuing to be challenged with the cost in dining, the cost of raw food, and things like that. So, and we are very mindful if we do have areas where expenses are higher than expected. We meet every single month as a team to discuss where we are and where we're positioned in the community to make sure we're mindful of that and we cut where necessary. But the community has done a great job of managing expenses so far. On the plant side, just over $3 million there with a plan of 2.9. And then depreciation, interest, and amortization, $3.4 million there, pretty close to what we had planned. So overall, our total expenses is $19.5 million compared to a plan of $19.8. And then overall, just an informational point here, our general administrative cost of the community is very well controlled. We're only 11% G&A overall for the community. And really, this brings us to the bottom line. Our operating income is $357,000, and that's revenues in excess of our expenditures. And then so basically that is our operations. So we're healthy there. And then the change in net assets includes a couple of other items to get us to our bottom line. That includes any temporarily restricted donations, any permanently restricted donations and activity, as well as any fluctuations that we may have in our investment portfolio. Just like you, we have to follow the market with our investments. Sometimes we make sales of our investments to take gains. And so the bottom line of that is just over $1 million. And you could see that in comparison to plan. So we're healthy there as well. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the more interesting part of the presentation, operations.
Thank you, Monica. Well, she was able to do the hard part for me, right? Go through all those numbers. Now I get to talk a little bit something that I'm very passionate about, which is sales. And why? Why is sales so important? Well, if you heard what she said, it really comes down to occupancy. That is really what drives our revenue. And so in order to drive occupancy, we need to bring people into the community. And so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that. Specifically, what are we doing to enhance our overall occupancy here at Carroll Lutheran Village? All right, so obviously we need a team. We need to be sales ready. We need to make sure we have strong processes, and we want to make sure that we're continuing to connect with the local community. So I'm going to break that down into individual pieces. Go ahead, Dawn. All right, so I think many of you already know two of our lovely team members. We've got Dave Higgins in sales. How many of you worked with Dave when you moved in? A few of you, all right. And then Jamie Hahn. Everybody know Jamie? So we're fortunate to have two really great sales team members, but we also had some vacancies. So I'm thrilled to share. I don't know if you've seen Suzanne yet. She's on, I think, week 3. But Suzanne Roos is someone who has worked within senior living for over 20 years. She has been a sales director, and she's a very accomplished sales director. She's been very successful in bringing people into communities just like Carroll Lutheran Village, entrance fee communities just like us. So if you see her, she is in the sales office, and she is already off to a running start. She is. She is from Maryland. She resides in Frederick, New Market area, and she's been working within Carroll County, Frederick, Baltimore for really the past 20 years. Okay, and then this lady you have not met yet, as she is starting next Monday, but her name is Dawn Casey, and she also has been working within the industry for quite some time, both within sales and also as a move-in coordinator like Jamie has been serving in our community. So she also is very familiar with our processes and how the sales process works, and she actually helped her current property go from about 70% some sales to 100%. So they actually filled up where she's at now, and so she was looking for her next opportunity, and we were happy to say, come on over. So you'll see Dawn starting next week. She will also be in the independent living sales office. So being move-in ready. I have a picture here of one of our apartments. Our facilities team, sales, housekeeping, we're all working very closely, administration, our corporate team, because we want to make sure that when we have people come and visit our community, they see something that they would like to move into. So that is one thing that I think we've always done to a certain extent, but now we want to even enhance that a little bit more. We want to make sure that we have a good number of apartments that are ready, that when people walk in and visit them, they look appealing, and we make sure that they're competitive to what people who are looking for apartments now want when they're looking to buy. So you can see in this picture, this is one of our recent renovations. Looks pretty nice, huh? Okay. And one thing that we're talking about as a group is, how do we make sure that when people do visit our campus, that we make the best first impression? And I think that for the most part, we do a really good job. It is a beautiful community. We're fortunate to have 100 acres, right, in these rolling hills. We have a beautiful array of homes to choose from. That's probably the reason many of you chose Carroll Lutheran Village, right? We have a beautiful community with a wonderful mission located right here in Carroll County. But we have homes, we have apartments of different sizes, everything from a studio to 2-bedroom den. So we have a nice array. And we want to make sure that as people visit our community, again, they can see themselves wanting to become a part of it. So that's something that we are working together to make sure that as people come out, they have a nice, good first impression. They get to meet our team. They get to meet many of you, right? For most residents, what do they want to know? Do I fit in here, right? Will I like my neighbors? Will I like the staff? That's all really important components to the sales process. So that's something that, again, we're going to be continuing to be focused on so that we can make sure that any time someone comes to visit our community, they walk away with a great first impression. And even if they decide maybe it's not right for them, maybe it doesn't fit financially, or maybe it's just too far away from where they currently reside, maybe they want to stay in a certain neighborhood, we still want to give them that great first impression, because when they go and talk to other people, we want them to say, you know what, I went to Carroll Lutheran Village and it was beautiful and it was so welcoming and warm. And I think many people feel that already, but we want to make sure that every time people have that experience. Make sense? All right, so we're also really focused on sales best practices. And I think we're very fortunate that we have Ken and we have Lisa, who is our Vice President of Marketing and Communications. They bring a wealth of talent at our corporate level to support our processes. And here at the community level, we're looking at the same thing, is how do we continue to round out so that we make sure that we are employing the very best sales practices and marketing procedures. So again, we're making the best with our resources. And so one thing we've identified is we have a sales database that we use in order to have all of our prospective resident information. And we want to make sure that we're using that tool to the best that we can. We've already identified some opportunities, and so we're going to continue to revise those procedures so that we, again, can make sure that, the resources that we have, we're employing those best. Communication, that is pretty simply said, but it is one of the areas that I think is typically the hardest for organizations, is just making sure that we're all communicating together, making sure that everybody knows what they need to know, and that includes all of you. We want to make sure that we are communicating what's happening within our community. We want to make sure that you know what we're focused on, so that we can all share those messages out in the community. And so that we make sure we are ready. If we want to make a good first impression, we internally have to make sure that we're communicating with each other so that we are ready. And then sales and turnover processes. So it's everything from the tour to following up with a prospective resident, to setting up maybe an opportunity for a resident to come in and experience what a meal might be like with you all, maybe joining a program or activity. It enables our prospective residents to get a feel for what this community actually would be like to live here. And so we're looking at those processes to make sure that we're, again, making sure that they're streamlined, they're efficient, and most importantly, they're effective. And then last but not least, we want to make sure that we have good reporting. And we're fortunate that we have many great templates, but we've identified some opportunities to streamline those so that they're not so cumbersome. Go ahead. Okay, and then last but not least, continued community engagement. How many of you were here when the hospital president was here? I think that was 2 weeks ago now. A few of you, yeah. So you know how important it is. Many of you are very involved in this community and the greater Carroll County or Westminster. And we want to make sure that as an organization, we continue to reach out and support the initiatives of our local community. I think that's one of the bedrocks of Carroll Lutheran Village. But we did recognize that over the last couple of years, as there's been some movement, especially with my role, we just have a little work to do to kind of get reintegrated. So some of the things that we're doing is really focusing on communicating the wonderful life that we have here, right? All the wonderful things you're doing, the ways that you continue to enhance our community. We want to continue to share that because nothing is more inspiring than seeing how well you are living and how you stay engaged. People love to be a part of something bigger than them, right? So we want to make sure we're telling those stories, we're getting that out there, and being able to share the beautiful life that we have here. Community events and programs, we want to continue to make those available for folks. And last but not least, we want to make sure that we are participating in sponsorships within the external community. So just like we have our area organizations supporting us and our benevolent care programs, our philanthropy, we want to make sure that we're supporting the local initiatives as well. Any questions about that? Yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up, and it does take, two things. One, papers have changed a little bit over the years. It's much harder these days to be involved in the papers. However, I agree that I think there's more that we can do, and that's where working with Lisa and corporate and philanthropy, we want to continue to identify those stories and get those out. Hopefully sometimes it's in the newspapers. I will say our organization does a really nice job with social media. I've seen so much already since I've been on board. But we're going to continue to look at, okay, how can we try to get those stories out there more? Because you're exactly right. There's nothing better than opening up the paper and reading about, whoa, what's happening at Carroll Lutheran Village today? Wow, look at this group of seniors. Like, they're really doing some really cool things. It's attractive. People like to see that. It definitely makes people more interested in wanting to be a part of it and wanting to know what's happening. So thank you for sharing that. All right, so I want to bridge over to reinvesting in our community. Monica mentioned about our capital projects, and as you all know, so important to continuing to reinvest in our community, making sure that we are maintaining our buildings, and we're continuing to add things that are important and of value to all of you. So how many people noticed our new sign? Oh, go back real quick. A few of you? Yep, it just went in. So if you haven't noticed yet, as you're driving by, check it out. Looks very pretty. And as our landscaping starts to come in, hopefully the flowers will offset it as well. Go ahead, Dawn. Oh, the other way. Some other things, and which Monica mentioned, and you've probably already noticing, our hospitality and Weller refresh. Again, started that a couple years ago, and just recently, actually just last week, some new furnishings went in. We do have sconces that are probably going to start going in about a week or so, and that will actually be for anyone who's in Weller. All the sconces throughout the corridors, those will be changing. Okay, just a little bit of updating there. In the link, we are going to be taking down those curtains and putting in blinds, which look just a little bit more modern, maybe a little bit more fresh, but also it'll allow you to control the sunlight when you're in those spaces. So we hope you enjoy that. And then also some new lighting in the link as well. And then last but not least, there's some new flooring, again, going in just adjacent to the bistro as you're walking towards the Weller building. And then the 300 building refresh. Actually, Ken, I forgot the board. We are going to we're going to have a traveling board. Ken just worked with our interior designer to create a nice little board of the finishes that are going into 300. So I think what I'll do is I'll put it up by Avondale Dining and the cafe first. We'll have it up there for a week. Then we'll move it over to the bistro. That way you can check it out and see what's coming. But again, most likely the renovations for 300 will probably start in about a month or so. Yeah. Yeah, so this always comes up. Every community I've worked with, and I think for those of you that have read my bio or I've mentioned it in the past, I've been in this business 30 years, and that's the question we always get asked. Are these interior designers, have they ever worked with seniors before? And yes, RLPS, I believe that's our designer, focuses specifically in senior living. And I will say, regardless of any community I've ever been with, no one ever really likes all the renovations done. It doesn't matter where I've been. Yeah.
You don't buy something for senior citizens that hits you in the back when you sit down. Seniors need support.
Yeah.
So when you buy furniture and you don't have support in the back, to me, that person isn't a senior citizen or hasn't worked with enough senior citizens to realize that.
I appreciate your point, and I think your point is well made. I know sometimes they design things as just a stopping place versus some place to really relax into. But I think your point is well made. But I do ask everyone just to consider that. Please share your feedback, but also do know that there's probably going to be some style choices that aren't necessarily up your alley, and there also may be items that aren't as comfortable for you, but it might be comfortable for someone else. So just something to keep into consideration. The spa, I know many of you have probably known the spa has had some challenges over the years. Is that something everyone's aware of, the actual blower? So I understand they've been working on this for quite some time, and they finally figured out exactly the right sized blower that the spa needs so that it gets the right amount of bubbles without, being overkill or actually having problems if it's too overpowered. And so that is going in very soon. And then probably in the next week to week and a half, we'll be communicating a fiber installation. You're probably thinking, what is that fiber installation? This is kind of like high-speed internet and cable services. Previously, I understand we wired for Avondale and Windsor Terrace, and so now we're moving to Weller. So we're going to be installing this fiber, and it's really infrastructure for the future, so that in coming years, you'll be able to upgrade to much higher speeds, much more reliable service. So we'll be communicating more information about that, but that is a huge investment for the community. It's going to allow us to really have much more improved services in the future. So that's a great thing. It's for the apartments in Weller. And then also, I'm happy to say, I just saw it this morning. Ken just signed off on the deposit for our new bus. And so we are ordering a new 14-passenger bus to replace the 2003 that was taken out of service. And then last but not least, this is probably another thing you're all aware of, is that there's been a desire to have a railing along the sidewalk walking up to the chapel, so right out here. That is also going to be signed off probably this week. So some great enhancements happening. And again, I just want to reemphasize, you know, when we talk about occupancy for the building and sales, and Monica mentioned those entrance fees, this is really what pays for these capital improvements. So it's so important. This is the reason why we are really focusing in on making sure that we're driving those sales, because that really is the lifeblood of this community from a financial standpoint. That's what allows us to make sure we're continuing to reinvest in the community, not only for today, but for tomorrow. You know, we think about kind of like, just for all of you, the savings, right? We need to save money so that in years to come, we have money for rebuilding projects and things like our major renovations that we just did. So important needs there. Yeah.
What about the houses? Are they going to do anything on some of the houses I mean, they're working on the apartments, but how about the houses? It needs insulation really, really bad. Some of the sidings are falling. I mean, there's things that need to be taken care of there. Is that in the working here somewhere?
So I can't speak specifically to any project there as it relates. Maybe someone else can. All right, here we go, Steve.
Okay, pardon me. So we're going one step at a time. But yes, the houses are coming up. We have increased the level of funding available to start re-roofing. You know, obviously the Wakefield Overlook homes have started in, what, 06, 07? So it's time to be re-roofing those. We'll be looking at siding. We would probably start with siding in the lower 48, you know, as we move through. The challenge, you know, we talked about occupancy, and, you know, I just have to talk numbers. You know, in order to do Windsor Terrace and Avondale Place, Windsor Terrace was $9 million, and we were able to do that with cash, which left nothing for a $20 million project at Avondale Place. So how we do it? Lutheran Social Ministries of Maryland transferred $10 million to Carroll Lutheran Village, plus we got a $10 million loan from Sandy Springs Bank. Now we got a great deal, 3.36. The market at the time was 5% or better, and we got 3.36. I don't know why, our charm, but you know, we got that. The challenge is that in June, we owe $3 million of that back. And we're $1.6 million below plan on entrance fees. So that fund balance, that money, those monies that Monica spoke to, are really important because we're going to diminish that in order to meet our loan payments. We've never defaulted. We won't default ever. Well, as long as I'm here. I don't intend to default on a loan. So we've got a lot of plans, but we got to kind of boost the occupancy and clean up some finances. We're strong, we're in good shape, but we have some obligations we have to meet. But we have we publish a 5-year plan, right? 5-year capital plan. We actually run those numbers out in our thought process so that we're looking out 10 and 15 years in terms of what needs to be done. But we know the siding needs to be replaced, particularly starting in the south. And I don't even know if that's really south. It's just my, okay. And then there are some things we can do in Wakefield Overlook in terms of, some of the siding there is getting, I don't know what, dusty. You rub against. There are some things you can do to wash it, and then you put a sealant on it. So we're looking at when we can get that into the plan as well. So there's a lot of efforts going on to try and do long-term financial planning for the community.
So as you can hear, everything is always part of that planning process. It's just a matter of the timing of when. But absolutely, there's a very, I would say, comprehensive long-term plan for continuing to manage the needs of this community. But it comes with balance. Just like you all are familiar with when you are managing your own house, right? We all want everything now, but we have to plan on how the finances go with that. All right, did we get through all of those? All right, so any other questions? Who has the next one? Yes.
The internet for the apartments, when will it be able to be installed, and will they have a choice between Comcast and Ting and some of the others?
You're talking about Weller? Because right now, Avondale Place and Windsor Terrace have fiber to the apartment. And then the resident can choose whether they want to go to Comcast, they want to go to, what's the name of the one in town? Yes, those guys. Or whomever you might want to try to do. We're starting in the next couple of weeks to run the fiber through Weller Circle. Oddly, even though that was only built 20 years ago, the way they built it, there are no channels. No channels to get from where the fiber comes into the building and snake its way through. So it's going to be a different process, and we're working with them to be able to accomplish that. So you'll all get an opportunity to get out of your units for a little bit, take the day, while we try to install that in each unit. But we should be beginning by the end of the month. Not March, April. We'll be beginning in April, but it'll be a longer process because, one, we're dealing with an occupied building. When we were doing the renovations in Windsor Terrace and Avondale Place, while everybody was off the floor, we just bang, 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 right through the units. We'll be doing fewer of that because we'll be moving people in and out or asking you to enjoy the day with friends while we get in there. But it should, 6 or 8 months was what they had. We're still working through all the details.
We just had a brief kickoff call end of last week. And so all those details are coming together, and we will be putting together a communication probably in, like I said, about the next week to week and a half. So we'll lay out the overall project and what you can expect coming up in the next few weeks to months as we roll out this project.
And all of our fiber is not associated with any particular vendor. So a resident has the option to choose whomever they want to offer their service. And gosh, 7 or 8 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that, we did all the homes. In a joint, that was a great deal. We wrangled monies right and left on that one when there were monies available, and we got all the homes wired and the main buildings wired. The healthcare center, assisted living, and the administration area downstairs. So when we renovated, we did Avondale Place and Windsor Terrace, and we've got to get, it's a utility. It's kind of like electric. You know, you wouldn't move into an apartment without electric today. For the most part, we all have access or use internet to some purpose. You know, your computers, your heck, your cell phone's a computer. I mean, so I think it's good that we're doing this. It'll bring the community up to current standards. Senior TV is still in the works. I don't know this long-term program because eventually, as providers understand we have fiber to the units, we may get more opportunities to look at other programming. But right now, that's one of the reasons we ran separate fiber. You can still get senior TV over the coaxial cable, which is there, and then your internet service could be provided by the fiber. Other questions? You have us.
What about the system here in the Clipchamp?
Isn't this a shame? It's a bloody new, it's a new system. You know, it's only, what, 5 years old, if that, that we put that in, and it just has never rung true. It is in the 5-year plan to replace this system. I took it out. They argued with me and told me it really needed to be back in. So you can thank your team here at the village, but it's in the 5-year plan. And I forget, it's 2 or 3 years out, but it's in here.
I think we should say thank you to having people like you work for us and keep the place going in such a sensible way.
It's the whole team, the whole team. You know, Ken keeps me straight a lot of the times, and Monica and Adam are the right hand. And we work as a team, which is wonderful. And we work with the communities as a team, with Renee and then Michelle down in LVMG. And of course, Jeff is very supportive of when we go in there and say, you know, how do we balance this? How do we balance this is me talking, how do we balance our financial integrity here, Mr. Branch, against all the things that Ken wants, you know? And
it's
and
true.
We sit down
it's very true.
And we sit down and we have incredible conversations and debates and look at data and arrive at a long-term plan. We make no short-term decisions. If something needs to be done and it's going to be the money, whenever we look at a decision, we look at life cycle costing to make sure that we are making a smart decision.
Also, we really appreciate the improved communication and everything you can do in that regard. In a lot of cases, there are things happening, we just don't know it until we hear it, we can talk to somebody. So these meetings are wonderful. Thank you.
Well, and we try to keep, Neil is part of the finance committee for the community, and we definitely work through all these ideas, and he brings a resident perspective to all of those discussions. So it's been very beneficial.
Well, with that, I just also want to plug that starting in April, we're going to start something called the Resident Town Hall. And the purpose of the Resident Town Hall will be for us as management just to share, what are some of the things that we're working on. We identify some things in CLTV News, but we would like to actually have a meeting where, in addition to that, we have a PowerPoint slide similar to today. We're sharing on a monthly basis what's happening with the community and what are some of those updates. Some pictures, because sometimes, it's hard to portray what's happening without pictures. So it'll be a little bit more robust, if you will. But look for that on your calendars coming up in the next month. We'll be starting that at end of April, okay? Ken?
Just wanted to just talk a little bit more about that. One of the things that when Renee came on board, I said, man, Renee, help us get the word out, help us get the message out more, because there's a lot of positive things that are happening and a lot of moving parts we think that are very important that the residents should know. And why Ann and I held the fort down for those 8 months, it's good to get back on a good, strong cadence again now that we have Renee here. So she will definitely be filling in those holes of communication. I also want to say, before we wrap up, I want to thank Adam, Monica, Steve, Dawn, Ann, Emily, I'll throw you in the mix, just to throw you in the mix, Kim and Andy for their support and everything we do. And everything we just talked about, but I really want to thank Renee. She's only been here not even 2 months. Look what she did today. That's her knowledge of being here 2 months and putting it all together. So great job, Renee.
Thank you, Ken. But again, thank you to our team. I will say this is a fantastic team. I mean, I have been so impressed by everyone here, and I've been impressed by all of you. I mean, the level of commitment and dedication to this community is really special, and it's a privilege to be a part of it. So I thank you, and I look forward to all the wonderful things we will do together. So with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day.